Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 21b, part 2. With the words V'kesef v'zahav l'yarbe. It's maybe about half the page. But I don't know exactly because I'm not seeing the actual Daf format. So it might be around half the page. It's V'kesef v'zahav l'yarbe ela kedei litein afsanya. Tanu Rabbanan v'chesef v'zahav lo yarbe lo yachol afilu kedei litein afsanya. Tamu lo mar lo eno marbe aval marbe hu kedei litein afsanya. The Mishnah teaches, neither shall he greatly accumulate silver and gold for himself, Deuteronomy 17:17, but only enough to provide his soldiers sustenance. The sages taught in a Braita from the command, neither shall he greatly accumulate silver and gold for himself. One might have thought that he should not have even enough to provide his soldiers sustenance. To counter this, the verse states for himself, teaching that only if the silver and gold is for himself, for personal pleasure, he shall not accumulate it. But he may accumulate enough silver and gold to provide his soldiers sustenance. Taima dichtav rachmana lo halav hachi haviamina afilu kedei litein afsanya nami lo tzricha leharbacha. The Gemara questions this ruling. The specific reason for limiting the prohibition to personal wealth accumulation is that the merciful one writes, neither shall he greatly accumulate silver and gold for himself, which indicates, consequently, that if the Torah had not written this, I would say that it is not permitted for the king to accumulate even enough silver and gold to provide his soldiers sustenance. This is unreasonable since the king needs an army. The Gemara responds, no. The term for himself is necessary to teach that the king is permitted to allow for a liberal appropriation to the military budget so that the army has a comfortable financial cushion. Hashtad yamart lo lidrasha lo yarbe lo nashim mai darashta be lemavute hedyotot. The Gemara asks, now that you have said that the term for himself in the verse is stated for the purpose of a derivation for practical halacha, which limits and narrows the verse's scope, what do you derive from the next phase in the verse, he shall not add many wives for himself? The Gemara answers, that usage of for himself serves to exclude ordinary people, to specify that only the king is restricted from having many wives, but a civilian may marry as many women as he wants, provided that he can support them financially. Rav Yehuda Rami Ketiv Vayhi Shlomo 40,000 arot susim l'merkavto. וכתיב ויהי לשלמה 4,000 ערבות סוסים. הכיצד? אם 40,000 הצטבלאות היו, כל אחד ואחד היו בה 4,000 ערבות סוסים. ואם 4,000 הצטבלות היו, כל אחד ואחד היו בו 40,000 ערבות סוסים. Rabbi Yehuda raises a contradiction. It is written in one verse, and Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots. 1 Kings 5:6. And it is written in another verse, and Solomon had 4,000 stalls. for horses and chariots. 2 Chronicles 9:25. How can these texts be reconciled? If there were 40,000 large stables, each and every one of them had in 4,000 stalls or rows for horses. And alternatively, there were 40,000 stables, and each and every one of them, there were 40,000 large stables, and each and every one of them had in it 4,000 stalls or rows for horses. Alternatively, if there were 4,000 large stables and each and every one in it had 40,000 stalls for horses. Therefore, the two verses are reconciled. Okay, Rabbi Yitzchak Rami, Ketiv, Ein Kesef Nechshav B'Yemei Shlomo Le'Me'uma. וכתיב, ויתן שלמה את הכסף בירושלים כאבנים. לא קשיא. כאן, קודם שנשא שלמה את בת פרעה, כאן לאחר שנשא שלמה את בת פרעה. Rabbi Yitzchak raises a contradiction as written in one verse, silver was not worth anything in the days of Solomon. 2 Chronicles 9:20. And it is written in another verse, and the king made silver in Jerusalem as stones. 1 Kings 10:27. Meaning gems. The Gemara responds, it is not difficult. Here, where silver was worthless, this was before Solomon sinfully married Pharaoh's daughter. There, where the silver was valuable, this was after Solomon married Pharaoh's daughter. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, בשעה שנשא שלמה את בת פרעה, ירד גבריאל ונעץ קנה בים, אלה סרטון, ועליו נבנה כרך גדול שברומי. Rabbi Yitzchak says, when Solomon married Pharaoh's daughter, the angel Gabriel descended from heaven and implanted a pole in the sea. And it gradually raised up a sandbar, sirton, around it, creating new dry land. And on it, the great city of Rome was built. This shows that the beginning of the Jewish people's downfall to Rome came with Solomon's marriage to Pharaoh's daughter. Rabbi Yitzchak, מפני מה לא נגאלו תמי תורה, שהם שתי מקראוס, נתגלו תימן, נכשל בהם גדול העולם. כתיב לא ירבה לו נשים, אמר שלמה, אני ארבה ולא אסור. וכתיב, ויהי לעת זקנת שלמה, נשב היטו את לבבו. And Rabbi Yitzchak says, for what reason were the rationales of the Torah, of Torah commandments, not revealed? It was because the rationales of two verses were revealed, and the greatest in the world, King Solomon, failed in those matters. It is written with regard to a king, he shall not add many wives for himself, that his heart his heart shall not turn away. Deuteronomy 17:17. Solomon said, I will not add many, but I will add many, but I will not turn away, as he thought that it is permitted to have many wives, if one is otherwise meticulous not to stray. And later, it is written, for it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. 1 Kings 11:4. Siv li'arbe lo susim. Yomer Shlomo, ani arbel v'lo ashiv, v'chuti v'tetzei b'rakamba mitzrayim b'shesh. And it is also written, only he shall not accumulate many horses for himself, nor return the people to Egypt for the sake of accumulating horses. Deuteronomy 17:16. And Solomon said, I will accumulate many, but I will not return. And it is written, and the chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver. 1 Kings 10:29, teaching that not only did Solomon violate the Torah, but he also failed in applying the rationale given for the commandments. This demonstrates the wisdom in the Torah's usual silence as to the rationale. For its mitzvot, as individuals, will not mistakenly rely on their own wisdom to reason that the mitzvot are inapplicable in some circumstances. The Mishnah teaches that the king writes the Sefer Torah for his sake. The sages taught in Brisa 7:4, the king fulfills the mitzvah provided that he does not beautify himself with the Torah scroll for his ancestors for that purpose. He must write his own Torah scroll. Amar Rava afal pi shenichol lo avotav le'adam Sefer Torah mitzvah lichtov mishelo שנאמר, ועתה כתבו לכם את השירה, את ורביי, וכותב לו ספר תורה לשמו, שלא יתנאה בשל אחרים, מלך אין, הדיוט לו. Rava says, with regard to the mitzvah for every Jew to write himself a Torah scroll, even if a person's ancestors left him a Torah scroll, it is a mitzvah to write to write a scroll of one's own, as it is stated, now, therefore write for yourselves this song and teach it to the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 31:19, Abai raised an objection for him when brought to concerning the king's Torah scroll, and he writes himself a Torah scroll for his sake, so that he does not beautify himself with the Torah scroll of others. Read precisely. This indicates the king, yes, he indicates he is included in the halakha not to have a scroll inherited from his ancestors suffice, but an ordinary person is not. Lo tzricha d'shtei toras v'chedetanya chasav lo et mishne koisev l'shmoi shtei toras achas shehi yoitzav v'nichnas imoi achas shemunachas loi beveis genozov. The Gemara dismisses Abai's objection. No. The ruling of that bright is necessary to teach that the king is commanded to write 2 Torah scrolls. He writes 1 scroll, as does any Jew, and he writes an additional Torah scroll because he's a king. And this is as it is taught in a bride. The verse states, he shall write for himself a 2nd Torah scroll out of that which is before the priests of the Levites. Deuteronomy 17:18, this teaches that he writes for his sake 2 Torah scrolls. One that goes out, comes in with him at all times, and one that is placed in his treasury. אותה שיוצא ונכנס עמו עושה אותן כמין קמע ותולה לזרועו שנאמר, שיוויתי השם לנגדי תמיד כי ממני בא למות. איני נכנס בה, לא לבית המרחץ, ולא לבית הכיסא, שנאמר, והייתה עמו וקרא בו. מקום הראוי לקרוא בו. The Brita continues in regard to the one that goes out and comes in with him. He makes it very small, like an amulet, and he hangs it on his arm, as it is stated, and I have set the Lord always before me. He is at my right hand. They shall not be moved. Psalm 16:8. This alludes to the small Torah scroll that is, that is always on his right hand. He does not go into the bathhouse with it, nor into the bathroom, as it is stated, and it shall be with him, and he shall read from it. Deuteronomy 17:19, meaning it shall remain in a place that is appropriate for reading from it. Amar Mar Zutra v'itema marokva. V'atchila nitna Torah l'Yisrael. B'chtav ivri u'lashon hakodesh. Chazav nidla lahem b'mei Ezra. B'chtav ashuri u'lashon arami. Be'eraru lahen Yisrael ketav ashuri u'lashon hakodesh. V'yinichu le'edyoitos Kasav Ivris Ulashon Arami. Mar Zutra says, and some say that is Mar Ukva who says initially, the Torah is given to the Jewish people in Ivrit script, the original form of the written language, and the sacred tongue, Hebrew. It was given to them again in the days of Ezra in Ashurit script and the Aramaic tongue. The Jewish people selected Ashurit script and the sacred tongue for the Torah scroll and left Ivrit script and the Aramaic tongue for the commoners. Man hedyotot Amar Rav Chizda Kutai Mai katav Ivrit Amar Rav Chizda Katav Libona. The Gemara asks, who are these commoners? Because it said, the Samaritans, the Kutim. The Gemara asks, what is Ivrit script? Because it says, Libona script. Tanya Yossi Omer, Ra'uya Haya Ezra, Shetin Natein Torah Al Yado Israel, Il Maleh Lo Kadmu Moshe. ומשה הוא אומר, ומשה עלה אל האלוהים, בעזרא הוא אומר, הוא עזרא עלה מבבל. מה עלייה אמורה כאן? תורה אף עלייה אמורה להלן תורה. It's taught in Brita to Sefta 4:5. Rabbi Yossi says, Ezra was suitable, given his greatness, for the Torah to be given by him to the Jewish people, had Moses not come first and received the Torah already. With regard to Moses, the verse states, and Moses went up to God, Exodus 19:3. And with regard to Ezra, the verse states, this Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the Torah of Moses, which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. Ezra 7:6, just as the going up to did here. With regard to Moses, is for the Torah, which he received from God and transmitted to the Jewish people. So too, the going up stated there, with regard to Ezra, is for the Torah, as he taught Torah to the Jewish people, and was suitable to have originally merited to give it. Moshe hu omer, Ve'oti tziva Hashem, Be'itahi lelamed etchem, Chukim u'mishpatim, Ve'ezra hu omer, Ki Ezra echim, Livavo lidrosh, את תורת השם אלוקיו, ולעשות וללמד בישראל חוק ומשפט, ואף על פי שלא ניתנה תורה על ידו, נשתנה על ידו הכתב שנאמר. The Brita continues, with regard to Moses, the verse states, and the Lord commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and ordinances. Deuteronomy 4:14. With regard to Ezra, the verse states, "For Ezra had set his heart to seek the Torah of the Lord, his God, and to do it, to teach in Israel statutes and ordinances." Ezra 7:10. And even though the Torah was not given literally by him, the script of the Torah was changed by him, as it is stated